Do you like testimonies of overcoming? Saved and Strong shares stories of people who have overcome struggles to find strength. Each episode inspires resilience, hope, and faith, reminding listeners they're not alone.
Hi, this is Carrie Watts. I'm here with the Saved and Strong podcast. I have my guest and friend, Gwen Christeson. Gwen, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Gwen and I met through our publisher, Hope Books, and her book just was released in December. So this is fresh, and we're so excited for her. Gwen is a probate attorney and a legacy advocate from California. She married her college sweetheart, Eric, and they have 3 adult children and 1 grandchild. She helps Christians facing end of life find peace of mind and heart by leaving legacy gifts. Her readers learn how to leave impactful legacy love letters by expressing love, faith, hope, gratitude, encouragement, forgiveness, and sympathy to help their loved ones grieve differently. Okay, so Gwen, show us your book. You've got it right there with you.
I have it with me. This is the hardback copy. It's just beautiful.
It really is. All right, tell us all about what's in your book and how it can help our listener.
So this is my book. It's called Legacy Love Letters, and I wrote it with Hope Books. I signed up January 2024, and so it just was released December of 25. So I did take 2 years to write it, but I've actually been living it my whole life. I've been speaking it my whole legal practice because as a probate attorney here in California, I help people plan their legacies. The difference with the book is this is now the heart piece. So as a probate attorney, I have to help people just put things in writing. They come in and they don't want to even talk about these things. And so my specialty has been all these years helping them make important decisions, meeting with them and working through what type of decisions they have to make. And then my job as the attorney is to help them with the legal documents. And so that's something I can help them with. And so the legacy love letters just came from that place where I was meeting with clients and I was finding out that there was more than just the documents, that they needed to do something more. And so estate planning is that good stewardship. It helps us with our financial planning. We're planning for our loved ones and caring for them in that way, making those provisions. And so the love letters just came from making sure that the heart piece is connected. When we can say goodbye, I love you to our loved ones, that helps them grieve better. And so it really started in my office. I have a client story that I share in the book where I had a client who died in 2008, and he had left a beautiful love letter for his wife. And so once I saw what an impact the letter had, every time her daughter went to visit her, she was reading the letter or she was reading the letter to someone else. And it just had just a huge impact on her. And I share the letter in the book. It's at the end. I was able to share some stories and some letters just to give people examples. Because even though I feel strongly about this passion project and I've been talking to people about the letters, I was finding that they didn't know where to start. And so as I wrote the book, I started, and you'll see with the cover, it says How to Leave a Legacy Gift of Love, Faith, Hope, and Gratitude. And as I wrote the book, God was just sharing with me his heart for legacy. And I identified 3 more ingredients, which is adding letters of forgiveness or of sympathy and even encouragement. And so as I wrote the book, there were about 3 different versions of the book. The first version was very legal and a little bit dry. So luckily I signed up with Hope Books and I started just really reading the Bible verses. I was motivated with just meeting other authors like yourself and just thinking about praying for my readers, thinking about what God wanted me to share about this passion project. And so as I studied more and worked through the verses, just finding out that people wanted to express love in all these different ways. And so I did break the book into 3 parts. And so there's a part here on why legacy matters. and then what legacy matters, and then the how to. So the most important is the how to. Just the back section, or part 3 is really just going through that love letter piece that you can just say, goodbye, I love you, I'll see you again in heaven. But we can also include these other really important ingredients.
Yeah. Well, I can see how this podcast could possibly go viral. Our listeners are probably going to the show notes going, where do I get this book? You can get this book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com, anywhere where books are sold online. But Gwen's website is legacyloveletters.com. She's on Facebook, Legacy Love Letter Project, and Instagram, Legacy Love Letters. So that's where you can find Gwen. But let's keep listening. So tell us a little bit more about who do you recommend this book for?
Well, it was really hard because when I'm recommending legal documents, I have to say everybody, even my children. I will tell you, I have a 19 and an almost 21 and an almost 23. And you met my daughter, Kate, at the Hope Story Conference. She's my middle daughter. And so my 3 children, because their mom is a trust attorney, they will tell you that mom made them sign a will on their 18th birthday. And that sounds very morbid. But when you come and approach legacy planning from the legal, the minute our children are 18, the minute we're over 18, we're adults, and we have to plan. We have to have legal documents in writing. And so, when I look at my legal practice, I have to say, yes, I'm helping everyone. I want to make sure they have these documents in writing. With the Love Letter Project, it is focusing on end of life. It is that, how are we going to be remembered? If I die today, what will my final words be? And so most people don't want to think about end of days. But as Christians, we do recognize the brevity of life. One of my favorite verses is Psalm 90. And so it's teaching us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. And so that's where, when we say everybody, the niche is, this really is for the person in the season of legacy planning. And not everyone is in the season of legacy planning. Even my 3 adult children, none of them wanted to sign their will. But it really is, how do we acknowledge that our life is short? And that's what I did find out writing the book, was that no matter how long we live, our life is short. And so that's where that brevity of life comes from. As people read this book and they're acknowledging that life is short, then it gives them that urgency of, I do need to write my legacy love letters. I do need to make sure there's something here for them to read and remember me by. But I do have to say, you have to be ready. You have to be in the season of legacy planning.
Yes, because I was thinking about myself. If you've ever had to finalize a parent's life, it is not easy. And the more they leave you, the better, right? Because you want to honor them and all their wishes. And in some ways, if they don't prepare you, then you're just guessing. You're like, I hope this would honor mom or dad, right?
Right.
And so I'm thinking about it already for like myself, and a gift for everybody for birthdays and Christmas and everything this year, because it's so important. You're right. Like, I have a son that's Army, immediately when your child goes into the military, they ask them to prepare their will because they just don't know whether they're being deployed or not. You have to be prepared. And so we all should live like this is our last day anyway, but then to be prepared for what if, right? Because we don't know. And I love that you have this career that you're helping people do this day in and day out. So how did you get here? Tell us how Gwen got to be an attorney helping people with end of life and now writing a book.
So you'll appreciate this, Carrie. My degree at UC San Diego was a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, and that came from a desire to help people. I thought, I'm just going to go off to college and study psychology, but God had a different plan for me. I took a class that was just psychology and the law, And so that inspired me to consider law school. And I went on to law school to just continue to learn how to help people. But when I was a new attorney in San Diego, I worked for corporate law and I was in the real estate group. And I didn't even meet with clients. But when I moved to the mountains of California, I live just by Lake Tahoe. And when I moved up here, it was a small town and they needed divorce attorneys and probate attorneys. And my first law case actually was a divorce case and someone passed away. So then it became my first probate case, and I've never taken any other case after that. Probate in California is that we're proving wills, we're determining what money and property they have and where that should go. And so that was 23 years ago. I just started, I just celebrated 23 years in business and decided that this was the right fit for me because I could use that psychology degree, I could use that law degree and really help people. But the difference was that I wasn't telling them about my faith. I was just teaching them how to make these decisions and take care of things. And so that's why Gwen, embracing her author calling, fortunately I signed up with a Christian publisher, Hope Books, out of North Carolina. And God was just really showing me his plan for my life and his purpose for my legacy. As I wrote this book, it just gave me that opportunity to write my story within the legacy book. I have a twin sister, so there's some fun things in here about having a twin sister. But I also weave in client examples. We talk a lot about having sound mind. And so that's in here too. But I've really enjoyed this author calling. It did take me 2 years to write the book, but I was writing already. And so to bring clients into my office, luckily we still have a local newspaper, and I was teaching workshops and I was writing about my workshops. And that really helped me share my writing with prospective clients. Even my website, my Estate Planning Law Center website, has past articles. And you'll see the last 2 years, a heavy influence of talking about legacy love letters and saying goodbye. But I still use that writing as an outlet to learn about God's heart for legacy, but then also to share about it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on 23 years in business.
Thank you.
And I'm so impressed your area still has a newspaper. It's a great way to get our words out.
And those articles actually led to this book because this love letter was number 7 on the top 10 list your survivors need to know. So just as you were thinking about your own planning or even wrapping up estates of our loved ones, I was helping people because I had people who would sign their will and trust and then say, well, Gwen, what else can I be doing? And so I found that if I helped them with the top 10 list, there are people who want to write their obituary, or there's people that want to give us special instructions, especially about gifts. You see that with jewelry, you see that with firearms, you see that with artwork. So these were the letters I was encouraging people to write to begin with. Just helping them even when they had a minor child, write a letter about hopes and dreams for that child. So I was incorporating letters already, but then seeing just what an impact these legacy love letters made, and just making sure that people knew that they could include these letters in with their will and trust and just make sure that their loved ones had something to read when they were gone.
What a treasure. What a treasure. What is one example of the most interesting story that you've had that you can share maybe?
Well, some of my favorites, and you know this with just writing a book, you get to speak it. And so as I was writing the book, I was asked to speak at a women's luncheon. I had a woman while we were doing our questions and answers, she actually shared her story. She didn't know that she had written a legacy love letter. And I share her story in the book because I was still editing the manuscript, so I got to weave it in. But what I loved about her story is after hearing my talk about legacy love letters, She shared with the group that when her husband was ill, she went into her study and put on some music, and she looked at the poem of How Do I Love Thee? And she wrote out just a love letter list of all of the things she loved about her husband. And then when she felt prompted to read it to him that night, and he actually passed that night. He was recovering from, she knew he was already on hospice. So she knew at that point there wouldn't be recovery. But what was so amazing about that story was she let me include it in my book. I included the poem, I included her exact words and her exact letter. But about 6 months later, I was motivated by her. I had a friend on hospice and I got to read to him my letter. So that was her having an impact on me because she shared her story. It reminded me that these letters, sometimes we don't leave them for our loved ones. We need to read them and share them now.
What a ripple effect.
Right?
Wow.
And so that's definitely my favorite.
This is the Saved and Strong podcast, and I love to hear people's faith journeys. So, where did your faith journey start, and how did it lead to you to where you are today?
So I was raised in a good home, but I didn't become a Christian until I went to college. And so, but my parents let me go to VBS. And so I feel like that vacation Bible school was just a place where I got to learn about God. My kids will tell you they had to volunteer every summer at VBS because I just felt so strongly about our church just providing that and being part of that, because I was one of those kids that God was planting those seeds of faith in my heart, just watching the skits or meeting friends there at Vacation Bible School. And then when I got to college, I was walking along the library walk and there was an outreach group there. And it was just perfect timing where someone invited me to go to church, and I became a Christian and I was part of our college group. It's called InterVarsity Christian, but it was a big group on campus, and just found all of my friends to just help me with my faith. And so I've been a Christian ever since.
So, what does your faith look like on a day-to-day basis now as a busy career woman, family woman, and now an author?
So I feel my faith has really blossomed the last 2 years writing this book, and it's partly because of Hope Books. That reminder of I need that time alone in the morning before my day gets busy, and so I've been able to keep that as a morning routine. I make sure all my laundry and dishes are done the night before because my best time is first thing in the morning. So I'll start my coffee, I'll sit down with my Bible, and I'll work on a devotion, and then I'll give myself that time to write. And that started with that book writing process. As I went through ClickUp steps, or as I got prepared for our weekly meetings with authors, I just knew that I needed to take time for myself. And so I'm just so thankful, because I was going to church once a week, but I wasn't making the effort to meet with God on a daily basis. And now I do.
Yeah. I'm an early bird too. Love early mornings with Jesus. Absolutely. Do you have a favorite scripture that motivates you more than another?
I do. One thing just with legacy planning, and it's here in the book. And I also have my prayer for legacy love letters that's right here in the book. And Carrie, that was because of you. When you got on a call one day and you said something about praying for your reader. And so I just started praying for my reader too. And then it became a 2-page prayer that's here at the beginning of the book. But here it's Psalm 111:4. He has caused his wondrous works to be remembered. The Lord is gracious and merciful. And I just love that verse because it reminds us why legacy matters. God did create us with that plan and purpose. And so when we're remembered, people are celebrating and praising God for who we were in their lives. And it's just one of those verses that just speaks to my heart as a legacy advocate.
Well, I'm so grateful that I could motivate you to pray for your reader. That just warms my heart. Do you mind sharing that prayer as well?
I would love to. So here, this is the prayer for legacy love letters. Dear God, We praise you for creating heaven and earth and all of mankind. Your marvelous creation is a work of art. Your wondrous works are to be remembered. An inheritance is to be handed down from one generation to the next. You are the author of our legacy story, which is written as we live fully in pursuit of a deeper faith and a more meaningful life. A legacy life that glorifies you is one of captivated with purpose as we store our treasures in heaven. Since our earthly life does not consist in the abundance of possessions, your legacy gifts are irrevocable. You gifted each one of us the unique personalities and talents to qualify us to do the life's work you created us to do. Thank you for creating each one of us to live the extraordinary life and legacy you designed for us to glorify you. Thank you for opening our eyes to what truly matters, to love, know, obey, and serve you. Your legacy plan for each one of us is to use the gifts of time, talent, and treasure you have given us to love the people around us by demonstrating your love in words and actions. Help us recognize the brevity of life so we don't intentionally disregard a sense of urgency and miss the opportunity to write legacy love letters to help our loved ones grieve differently. We pray for our loved ones during their time of grief, and we thank you our last words will give them love and eternal hope upon our passing and help them grieve with peace, joy, and the hope of heaven. Thank you for inviting our loved ones to turn toward you and find comfort and healing until we are reunited in heaven. You have victory over the power of death, and you will faithfully fulfill your promise that our reward for this legacy life will be to see you one day. Until then, may we glorify you as we use the gifts and calling you gave us to love and serve the people in our lives as we use the time we have left to be awake, to be real, and to speak truth. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. That is so good. Truth is my word for the year. It's so needed in this day and time when we don't know what is true and what is not. So true. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So, what is next for Legacy Love Letters?
So right now, my job is to sell 1,000 copies. So that is my goal right now, to sell 1,000 copies. Brian Dixon, who's our publisher there at Hope Books, that's his goal for his authors. And so I decided that's my goal right now. I don't know how many I've sold since my book just came out, but I'm just working each day to share the message of the book, and just excited to have chances to speak the book and to share the book. So we'll see. That's my first goal.
Great. Now, have you had some book signings?
I have here in the office. People have been surprising me. They've been bringing books they've purchased on Amazon. I've also been selling books in the lobby, but then I'm doing extra things. I had a Valentine workshop, and so I got to sign some books at we just did Valentine letters instead of love letters. And then this weekend, I'm really excited. I'm going to do a legacy workshop luncheon at a local church. They've invited me to come and talk to them about stewardship, because that's what we do with legacy planning. It's that stewardship of the financial resources and now stewardship of that relationship and that heart piece. So I'm excited about that too.
Congratulations. That is exciting. So exciting. And this is your first podcast?
It is my first podcast, so thank you for being gracious and kind and helping me with all my technical difficulties.
Yes. And I feel like you'll have many podcasts in your future for sure. A lot of us authors don't have a business before we write the book. And the book is the beginning of an idea that becomes coaching or serving in some other area. I love that you had your business first, and now you have your book as a resource, as a beautiful accessory to what you're already doing. Do you see another book in your future or anything else to go along with that?
Well, you're reminding me, what I've enjoyed the most about the book is that even though clients come to me for the financial and legal piece, they get to leave with the book and know that there's this heart piece, that this is a part they can do themselves. But I have found that people, because they're meeting me as an author, they are coming to my business if they're local, if they're here in California. But what I see next, Carrie, is a workshop. So I am working on as I teach, even the workshop on Sunday, that is my in-person. And so my next would be that webinar or that online workshop or even that women's retreat. What's exciting about this book, and you'll see as you get into it, each chapter has a writing prompt, it has a worship prompt, and it has a verse and a prayer. And so I just feel like the workshop is built into the book, but I would love to pull that out with an online workshop.
Yeah. That's what I have found as a creative is the more I create, the more ideas I have. And I was at a writing conference last April in our area, and the keynote speaker said, "I have so many ideas, I cannot die."
Right?
Said, "I have in my notes app in my phone," she said, "I have like 3,000 ideas." So, we have to focus, we have to what you call niche down and get those ideas into action. And so it sounds like you're doing that. Now, will those workshops be local and online or just local?
That's my plan. My plan is to have, of course, be available for local, but to do an online workshop so that people can uh c- they can join from all over because it
So if
really
we
is
join
one of
your
those.
newsletter, then we'll be in the know.
Right? Exactly.
I know as an author, sometimes the marketing piece is harder than the writing piece. And I love social media. To me, it's so easy to get on there, post a picture, post a message, and go. The email piece has been the most difficult piece for me, and I don't send out as many emails as I should. I like getting other people's emails, so I don't know why I wouldn't send out an email for my readers as well. But when I do send out an email, I get responses, so I know that's something I've got to do. Is there anything as far as the author piece goes that you find easier or more difficult or more challenging?
Definitely the author piece. I love social media just because I'm a picture person. So I love sharing pictures. The email, I'm good at emails because I do them all the time in my work life, but same thing, you have to make it a priority. You've got to block time in your calendar. And so it's really protecting that time. And I saw that with those weekly author calls. I saw that even today. I blocked my calendar so I could have time with you. So it's really just making sure when you make that commitment to, and I saw this with love letters too. People tell me legacy planning is important to them. And then it's reminding them, well, let's get that on the calendar. Let's block some time to spend time doing that. And so I think that's the hardest for me is just keeping that time protected.
And so, what do you find to be your biggest challenge when you're counseling people to prepare for end of life?
It's really just that it's that someday we tend to put it off. And part of procrastination, it does come from that just not knowing how easy it can be. That's the biggest compliment I get from my customers is they'll say, I don't know why I put it off. You made it easy for us. And so a lot of it is just that of just recognizing that um, and you reminded me of a quote. I will write a legacy love letter so someday my loved one will read it, instead of saying, I will write a legacy love letter someday. And so it's that someday requirement of you really have to take action. And so when I have found that that's what people struggle the most with is that it is that fear of death or that fear of dying. But when we can come alongside them and just say, this is so important, especially a gift to your loved ones, that they will grieve better when they have that final goodbye from you. And so whether it's the financial planning or the love letter piece, it's really just reminding people because it is hard to do. It is overwhelming, and it's just helping people take the steps. Even in my own life, Carrie, I forced myself to write my letters to my spouse and children because I thought, I can't, who am I to teach this if I haven't done it myself? But then it gave me other opportunities. Even when my daughter Kate graduated from high school, we had a letter book that we all shared, letters to the grad. And if had I not been working on this project, I might not have picked up that book and encouraged her siblings and family members to write those letters. So that's what's exciting about just continuing to see where these letters can be written and shared.
Yes, I can see how you could explode into all kinds of letters. And I think the letter writing process, we don't want to lose that. I mean, who doesn't love getting a letter on paper and pen that you can read, and reread? I still have letters that my husband wrote me from when he was backpacking in Europe or doing a study in Costa Rica. I still have those and I look at them because it's that first love letter that is just so sweet. Now we've been married for 31 years and, we can just get lost in the busyness of career and family and responsibilities. But a letter is so sweet. When my son was at boot camp, he couldn't call us. And so I sent him with a notebook and a pen and a roll of stamps. And I was like, share this paper because there's probably a lot of guys that were like, I'll never write a letter. And those letters, my child said things to me he had never admitted before. And I mean, he's so sweet anyway. He's just a lovable kind of guy. He's tough, but he's a teddy bear at heart. But those letters, I treasure them. I have them in a box. I think it was so hard. It was like they realized, well, I had it pretty good when I was at home. So yeah, I can see how these letters would be treasured for years and years to come. And the wisdom that we have as we get older, it's priceless. And that wisdom that we can pass down to our kids is golden. And now they're going to have these letters for generations to come. I can just see how this book it's just, tell us more. Tell us what else you have for us.
So you reminded me just then when you're sharing about the letters from your son and your husband, it also reminded me what I discovered with reading these letters and talking to people is that the letters have that supernatural power. And so when someone is actually written, and it can be handwritten or typed, we're not going to judge anyone's handwriting. Even Clyde, the first letter I told you about, his was typed. His daughter said he didn't like his own handwriting, so it's okay to have these typed. But the supernatural power comes from that. When you're reading that letter, you can hear your loved one's voice. You can feel their love, and that's where their presence is felt. And so that's the supernatural power of we cherish these letters. My friend Anne, who shared a letter, her mom wrote a letter to both her and her brother. She held her letter in her jewelry box. People really, they protect them and they share them. They cherish them and they bring them out. They read them when they have times of doubt or times where they're feeling sad or lonely or even when they're celebrating things. Carrie, one of the other stories I really wanted to share with you, and it came from those letter books. When I told you about the letter book we wrote for the grad, I also had a letter book for my dad, and he actually died suddenly in 2023. And I had bought this Letters to My Dad book, and I failed to write them before Father's Day, but I had the book. So when he passed away in September, I sat down, and I speak about this in the book because there's a whole section here on sympathy. And I found when I was grieving, writing those letters about memories of my dad, there were just 10 prompts, things like, I'll think of you when I see blank. They're just sweet little prompts, but they helped me in those time of grief. And I'm so thankful now because I wrote those right after his passing. And as you get further away from that day, it's harder to remember. And so I'm so pleased that I can read those letters now and just remember those sweet memories of my dad. And that's just helped me with my grief also.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is, yes, we need the one who's leaving us to write the letters for us, but we can write to the ones who are already gone. That is beautiful.
And it's been really sweet. A lot of the people I've been talking to have been sharing those letters with me. Even after the book, I found one or two. I'm going to keep track of just letters that people have shared with me. Even my Valentine talk, I met a woman who her husband wrote love letters on napkins and put them by her coffee pot. And so when She lost her husband and had to move. Her children actually brought those napkins that she had saved and they hid them around her new house. And so now, as she's living in the new home, she's finding these love letters that her husband used to leave for her that her children have now put in her home. So it's that supernatural power of just being able to read those words from our loved ones and just help us with that day and what we're getting through that day.
Wow. How sweet.
I told her, I said, Cheryl, if I knew this napkin story, it would be here in my book. So maybe there is a volume 2. We'll see. But I'm definitely keeping track of all these love letter stories because they're just sweet examples of how we love God and we love others. And that's how we're going to continue and serve Him, is just by loving God and loving others.
Yes, you definitely have to have a collection of love letters. Oh my goodness, just to be able to read that would be so sweet. And you could make that a collaborative book. Here I am. I'm putting you to work.
Right?
Putting you to work, Gwen. We need a collection. How sweet for the romantic in us. We need that. That is
Well, and it's
so
sweet
sweet.
too, because some of these, and you saw that when we look at expressing our faith and hope and gratitude, not even forgiveness is an expression of love. And those are hard letters to write. Sometimes people say it's not always the love story, but it is because we're even expressing that sympathy is expressing love and kindness. Expressing that encouragement is that unstoppable love. And so it's just really sweet. And you'll see that in the stories that I shared and some of the letters I shared, just seeing how people were doing that already, but just helping people so they wouldn't have that writer's block of a blank screen of it's okay to just think about this and journal about it and then tailor it to your loved one. I saw that with my 3 children that I wrote each letter a little bit differently. That's where you look at that 5 love languages from Gary Chapman and how will this spouse or how will this loved one receive love? And so if it's someone who their gift or their love language is quality of time, it's reminding them of that time you spent with them.
So sweet. Yes, our memories matter, and Hope Book says our words matter, but our memories matter. There's not a day that goes by I don't think about my mom and dad, the impact they've had on me. And I think about anyone that's had a impactful mentor or authority in their life. Once they're gone, they're gone. You know, my son and I were talking about fishing yesterday, and my dad loved to go fishing with my boys. What great memories they have of that. And so, yes, I can see how those letters would just go on and on and on. What kind of encouragement would you give our listener if they think, yeah, I need to write those letters, but what would you tell them?
I would tell them start small. It might be just a birthday card. Even with my dad, even though I didn't write all those 10 letter prompts and deliver it to him on Father's Day, I wrote him a Father's Day card. And so I didn't know it was going to be his last Father's Day, but I was able to tell him how much I loved him. And he even called me after he got his Father's Day card and thanked me for it. And so that's where we can make small steps of just whether it's a Father's Day card or a birthday card, you can write those letters or share those messages now. And so that's good practice. The love letters, you really do have to give yourself time, but the book will help you with that because there are some journal prompts and some writing prompts and just some great examples. So it's just small steps is definitely a good way to start.
Yes. And I can just imagine how cathartic or therapeutic it would be to write those letters. Yeah. What is your encouragement to somebody that's like, okay, I can write the letter, but I don't know if I can give it to them?
Well, that's where the will and trust comes in. You get to tuck it in with your documents, somewhere where they know to look. For some reason, 2 of the letters that are in here, they were found in shoe boxes. And both people that found the letter said, I don't know how I found this letter. I mean, you think of when we lose a loved one and we do have to pack their things and donate their things or all the things that we do, a letter could be, if it's in a shoebox, we might not find it. So I prefer people to put the letters in a place that we can find them. And so a lot of times that is with those important legal documents or just telling people, this is where my letters are, or when I'm gone, this is where they are for you. But it would be hard not to read them. I had a fun event a couple weeks ago. I had a woman come in and I was telling her all about my book. And I walked out of the room, Carrie, and when I came back, she was crying. And while I had stepped out of the room, her husband told her, "Oh, those love letters, I already wrote one. It's in the safe." And she
Oh,
had no idea. She was just beside herself. So, but a perfect example, he just knew that she would look in the safe for those important things and she would find her love letter. But she had no idea that there was one in there for her until we had had that conversation.
I think these guys have no idea how just that one sentence, "I wrote you a love letter." That's better than "I bought you a diamond necklace" any day of the week, you
Right.
know? I mean, who doesn't love a love letter? That's awesome.
Yes, it's those love notes and that well, and it's that way we receive love too. Those letters, those words of affirmation. Just wanting to
Yeah.
have it in writing.
Yes. Well, I'm so grateful that you followed the obedience of the calling to write this book. I can imagine that it's going to make a huge impact, not just in your community, but all over for our listeners as well. So I just want to remind them to go to your website and to your social media pages and to follow you, sign up for your newsletter. It's www.legacy-love-letters.com. And she's on Facebook, Legacy Love Letter Project, and Instagram, Legacy Love Letters. Well, I want to thank the listener for being here with us the full time today. Thank you, Gwen, for spending time with me today. I have been encouraged and inspired to get even more of your books to share. And I want our listener to go to your website and get a book and go to Barnes & Noble or Amazon and get a book too. I'll put the link in the show notes for
Thank you,
sure.
Carrie. And I just want to encourage people to write these letters. They're so important.
They are so important. Thank you, Gwen.